Good morning and welcome to another edition of BC Poly Hot Stove. I am your host. I am the editor-in-chief of the Orca, joining you once again from my living room table, dining room table, I should say. My name is Maclean K, and I am joined in a safe, socially distant manner by.
I'm Jordan Bateman. I'm Vice President Communications for the Independent Contractors and Businesses Association, the mighty ICPA. All right, I'm trying
And
it out.
Jordan, off the top, we should talk about. I don't know what you've been doing over the last couple of days. I've been doing a lot of reading, a lot of trying to listen and trying to learn a lot more about. Obviously, we're talking about the situation in the United States and I guess here in Canada as well. And we're two white guys right up front.
Yep.
We should acknowledge that. And I'm still reading and listening. That's kind of the mode I'm in right now. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we've just come through a period where we've seen an uptick in racism against people of Asian descent here in British Columbia. Certainly, Canada's historic issues with Indigenous people. There's a lot to there's a lot to chew on these days, and I don't want to. I don't know. The world doesn't need to hear from me on these issues. Like the world, we need to hear from the folks who are living it out every minute of every day, and that's who I'm curious about these days. So to everyone out there, be safe. Make sure we're hearing your perspectives for sure.
Absolutely. And as I say, I'm still reading and learning a lot every day. And you can never get too many perspectives on this, especially from those who have to live this each and every single day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. My daughter sent me a text yesterday, and and the great thing about this is it is creating conversations around dinner tables all around the world. And we were able to have conversations about privilege, about the great fortune we have to be born in the place we were born, and the challenges that other people face. And so anything that we can do to better expand our empathy, better extend our understanding, is a good thing. So there's a lot of trepidation out there to speak on these issues, I think, because we come on the air at a time where Drew Brees' tweet is trending in the United States for all the wrong reasons.
I don't even know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think I want to know.
I didn't dig into his comment. It sounds like he still disagrees with Colin Kaepernick. And, honestly, Colin Kaepernick, that feels like 10 lifetimes ago now. It's so much has happened. And it's hard. It's tough. All I can say is, please, everyone just be safe. And let's continue the dialogue and let's continue to learn from each other.
Yes, absolutely. And from that to the day-to-day business, which has never stopped, of politics here in BC, where do you want to start? Do you want to start in our new favorite hotspot in Port Coquitlam?
Yeah, we can start in Port Coquitlam. This is kind of a more minor story, but a counselor named Laura DuPont was censured for apparently violating council confidentiality 3 times. Censured is a slap on the wrist from other councillors. You vote, and essentially you say censured. It's a public thing, and there's no penalty attached to it or anything like that. However, she is now suing the city for this gross overreaction, as she says. We don't know what she may or may not have leaked out of in-camera meetings. We certainly don't know the implications of it, but it is a interesting. Significant internal challenge to your friend, Mayor McDreamy, Brad West, who generally only gets positive press. This will be certainly something that he has to discuss, and his hands will be tied because it's still confidential, right? Like the censure itself he can talk about, but not the material that was involved.
Well, exactly, and I think this more sort of counts as a story to keep watching, because until we know what happened or what is alleged to have happened, it's hard to comment. She has the counselor, who I had not heard of before this, seems to be implying this has something to do with her climate advocacy. But again, we just don't know. This is going to be another interesting thing to watch in the days and weeks to come.
Yeah, it'll be something. Look, being a former 2-term counselor in the Township of Langley, you get a lot of material in camera. It's tough sometimes because sometimes you think stuff is in camera that you don't think should be in camera. Sometimes you talk about elements of something in public that you've also talked about in camera. It gets really complicated. So to have done it 3 times on an issue that apparently exposes the city financially, one assumes that would mean property, probably like a property they were looking into, or some sort of personnel issue. But it's rough. I'll tell you a funny story about when I was a newspaper reporter. There was a counselor in Langley. She'd been on Langley Council for years, decades, a pioneer for women in politics, Muriel Arneson. There's a library named after her actually now, which I believe I made that motion to name it after her when she passed away. Muriel Arneson had been on council like 20-something years. And she's getting a little bit older. And at the time, I was a muckraking local newspaper reporter. And I tracked down, I knew we were out, the township was out hiring a new clerk. So I wanted to find out the name of the clerk. I wanted to break the story. So I called her up, and I just kind of pretended like I knew what was going on. I was like, oh, Mrs. Arneson, great to, nice to talk to you. Oh, I understand you guys have hired a clerk. She's like, oh, yes, a wonderful man. And I'm like, yeah, a wonderful man with an Italian heritage. I'm like, okay, Italian heritage. And I'm like, yeah, and he comes, it's great experience, doesn't he? He comes and she's like, oh, yeah, he comes from across the river, Port Coquitlam or Port Moody or Pitt Meadows or whatever it was. So I hang up with her and call that municipality, Pitt Meadows. I'm like, oh, I'm sending a letter to the one of your clerks. Is there a clerk? You have an Italian name. They're like, oh, you want Alberto De Feo. So sure enough, I then got it confirmed and printed the story. I called the mayor of his municipality to get comment. And that guy ripped me. Oh man, he's like, I don't know how they do business in the township of Langley, but here in wherever, Pitt Meadows, I think it was, what happens in camera stays in camera. He yells at me, and I just thought to myself as a 22-year-old reporter, I got you, buddy. Like, this is beautiful. So, anyways, I don't know. There you go. A little random township of Langley history for you, Maclean.
Well, I mean, these kind of things happen all the time. They happened on the Orca with, if you remember, we were the ones that broke the story that BC Ferries was going to start selling beer and wine in the buffets.
What's a buffet? Buffets? What's a buffet?
Yeah,
I'm very young.
Remember buffets? But that wasn't information we were supposed to have. Yeah. And I'm not going to share how we got it here. But these things happen.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, that's just part of the give and take government, and that's why one of the reasons why so many of us are constantly pushing governments to proactively disclose information, put this stuff out. Like, why hide it behind closed doors when it's no longer relevant? So, yes, that's my experience in the in-camera world. Can we talk about another municipal official though?
Oh, yes. Okay. I'm wondering who.
So on Wednesday last week, Premier Horgan gets up doing his weekly song and dance for you media elites in Victoria.
Which she will be doing again this afternoon.
Yeah. It's a great show, and you guys always do a good job, kind of roasting and toasting him when necessary, and it's all fine. But he makes a big deal last week where, BC, British Columbia, listen to me, this is the year to explore BC. You can't go to California, you can't go to Hawaii, you can't go to Disney. This is the year, explore BC. So my wife and I were like, okay, well, it seems like he's sending a pretty strong signal that they're going to allow travel around BC. So, we booked a place in Penticton for a few days for the kids, and we have, started making summer plans. Lo and behold, that was Wednesday. On Friday, the mayor of Squamish, which, for those of you unfamiliar with the geography of the Lower Mainland, is kind of the halfway point between the Lower Mainland and Whistler, and is a major tourist destination in its own right. Yeah. The mayor of Squamish, her name is Karen Elliott, comes out and says, whoa, hold up, no tourists. We're not interested in any tourists. Keep your tourists at home. Like, don't bother coming to Squamish. The problem is Squamish was reopening its very popular Sea to Sky gondola, which is an incredible view and takes you up the mountain. I'm afraid of heights, so I loathe it, but I understand for people who love heights, it's great. They also are reopening the Britannia Mining Museum, which is a cool. Major facility and prelude to what's going to happen in your neck of the woods with the Royal BC Museum. Mm-hmm. So, you have these tourist operations opening, and they're desperate for dollars. And you can bet the hotels are desperate for dollars. You can bet the Squamish restaurants are desperate for dollars, and the rental companies and all these things. And you have the mayor saying, nope, stay out. And I got a cold chill down my spine. Like, am I actually going to go to Penticton this year? Like, is that actually a thing that's going to happen? Or is some random mayor there along the way going to turn us all back?
Yeah, you know what? I've heard similar stories on an unofficial level. I've had people contact. I have some very close ties with the Gulf Islands, as you may know. My parents live on Pender, and I had somebody contact me saying they were wondering about going to specifically Pender this summer, and they had heard a rumor that the local grocery store is refusing to sell groceries to non-residents. And had I heard this? I had not heard this, and I haven't explored it, but I suggested to them that if you've heard this rumor, maybe don't plan on going there.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that this is true. I don't know that it's not true, but these kinds of stories are circulating. We've seen things like, I guess it was in Revelstoke,
Yep.
where they were leaving angry notes for people with Alberta plates. One of whom lived in Revelstoke and was in the process of getting the plates transferred over. So, I mean, it's really, you can't win. But you're right. It hasn't felt very coordinated, has it? I mean, we have heard from the Premier, this is the year for British Columbians to get out and see BC. We had a piece in the Orca written by Jock Finlayson saying, with international travel restricted, there'll never be a better or more important time for British Columbians to see parts of the province that maybe they hadn't seen before and support local businesses while they do it. But when you hear people like the mayor of Squamish say, actually, no, stay away.
Yeah, it's tough.
How do you plan?
I don't know. And, frankly, it's anywhere in Western Canada. Like, at one point, we sort of talked about maybe this is the year to take the kids to Jasper and Banff. I mean, they've never been, and
Yep.
maybe this is the year. And, I have very fond memories of Valemont, BC, which is kind of on the way from time spent there with my grandparents. And I thought, this is a part of the, it's like a totally different kind of lifestyle there. Like, it's something that I could really show the kids. But, we got worried, right? You book a place in Jasper, what if they say no? There's a small campground in Nicusp who specializes in like motorcycle trips. You take them, if you're motorcycling, you stay there, you shower, you eat, you sleep overnight, very simple. You go on. The Nicusp, her neighbors in Nicusp have asked her not to reopen because, even having, I think her max capacity is 30. It's not major, but even having that would be a major drain on their resources, or so they perceive. And so, yeah, it's a bit worrisome. Now, I think, places like Penticton and Kelowna are going to be, they're so reliant on it. I don't think they could keep tourists away. But, Haida Gwaii turned back ferries or wanted to turn back. Like, there's just all these stories kind of percolating out there. And it's something that, frankly, the Premier is going to have to get these mayors on board for. If you're relying on resort municipality taxation, as Whistler does, for example, as I believe many other municipalities do, you should be encouraging as many tourists to come as possible because those municipal governments desperately need cash.
Yeah, it's phase two. This is supposed to be a gradual reopening, and as Jody pointed out in her piece this morning, not everyone is going to be at the same pace, and that's okay. But mixed messages are going to be a problem because you're right. There will be families that will have planned, I don't know, a trip to Disneyland to see relatives back in Ontario, go backpacking across Europe this summer that aren't going to be doing that now. They're going to be looking at, well, maybe we should go to Whistler or Squamish or Penticton or the Gulf Islands, and wondering if that's possible too. We haven't made any summer vacation plans because we have no idea what to expect.
Yeah, you see, like, we had the choice. We could go to the Sunshine Coast, and we've been there before, and we love it. But we decided, that might be a little risky, like, because of different political agendas. So maybe we should go to the Okanagan. It's crazy. Like, why should that be part of the calculus? It's British Columbia. Now, which leads us actually into another great topic. So Justin McElroy did the numbers in the great CBC reporter, and apparently there's only 4 active cases of COVID-19 in British Columbia outside the Lower Mainland. It's been like 22 days since there's been a new case on Vancouver Island, for example.
Yeah.
So the Liberals, BC Liberals, kind of stepped back and said, hey, maybe we should be opening up more quickly in certain regions where there is no COVID. Like, does it make sense to have Prince Rupert and Fort St. John in phase 2 or Vancouver Island in phase 2 when they probably could just advance right to phase 3 and 4? Like, why are we waiting on the Lower Mainland to catch up? What's the point of that? And I gotta say, I kind of agree with Andrew Wilkinson on this. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense to tie, for example, your hands on Vancouver Island when there hasn't been a case in 2.5 weeks. Yeah,
there was a story this morning that the last, hopefully last, but the only patient with COVID-19 in the north was discharged from hospital yesterday.
Yeah.
There are currently 0 patients with COVID-19 in Northern Health. That's amazing. You can understand why Bonnie Henry and Adrian Dix want to keep it on a province by province level, but I get that. But in a not too very different universe, Canada, healthcare would be delivered nationally and not provincially. I'm not suggesting that's better, but it wouldn't take a very different universe for that to be the case. And if that was happening and we were taking a national approach, we here in the West, I think, would be astonished to be treated the same way as what is still an unfolding disaster in Quebec. It is, when the cases are in the single digits in British Columbia, let alone, Manitoba and Saskatchewan, it wouldn't make sense to treat us the same way as them, or vice versa if the same was happening here and not there. So if that is just normal and natural and a given, then why is it not normal and natural and a given for places like Prince George, or you mentioned Valemount, not be treated the same way, or not be allowed to open up sooner if it's safer there? Deanie Moore had a great piece a couple weeks ago in the Orca saying that, not only would it be safer in the interior in the north, it's quite necessary because they're already at a disadvantage for things like, broadband and wireless internet. So it's not as easy to work from home or go to school from home. And so knowing that it would be safe probably to go back sooner there is only making them more frustrated.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. Yeah, and I think part of this is maybe NDP, the NDP aren't very strong outside the Lower Mainland and Vancouver Island. They have, I think, 3 or 4 MLAs outside those two bastions, so they do not, it's not their base, right? Like, what do they care if Mike Bernier's constituents are a little bit miffed, or if, Ellis Ross's constituents are asking why they can't, play on that playground? Like, it doesn't matter to them. But it's bizarre because it's such a huge province. And to, tie everyone up based on, and frankly, look, even in the Lower Mainland, we're talking about fewer than 200 active cases.
Yeah.
The vast majority, or the majority of which are in long-term care, prison, or hospital. Like, it's, we reopened our office here at ICBA on June 1st, on Monday. There was a few people, it's the first time they really ventured out. They were trepidatious the first day. Second day, they were like, this is great. Glad to be, they were all back on board. And, we talked about, like, the numbers are tough. Like, you would actually, like, I'm not sure where you would actually go to try to catch COVID at this point, right? Other than a long-term care hospital. Like, out here in the real world, it's all kind of okay. So this is an
and we
interesting
hope it stays that way.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
If Bonnie Henry was a guest on this podcast right now, she'd probably say something along the lines of, we have erred on the side of caution up till now, and it has worked. And she has it's a valid point, but I think it's worth at least asking, at what point could we tell the different health regions that, maybe if you had your own independent schedules, it wouldn't be. It's worth exploring.
Yeah. If I had a kid in Prince George, I would be very puzzled why my kid isn't in school full time, why Little League isn't happening. It would be very difficult to swallow. And I think that, it's important that cabinet here, that, the rest of British Columbia is indeed ready to get going here. So we shall see how that goes.
Yeah, and as long as the border remains closed, I think that'll be the single biggest thing anyone can do.
Yeah, and as long as we're sequestering people who've come back from overseas, like that's the big thing. Hey, you want to talk about schools?
Yes, let's do it.
So
I think both the Bateman and Kay families had kids return to, well, in my case, preschool. But what was the experience like in your house?
Yeah, well, I was tweeting about it on Monday. So my my 8th grader went back. So she's back 2 mornings a week. My 11th grader is back 2 afternoons a week. And my 4th grader, he's back 2 full days a week. So his first 2 days were Monday and Tuesday. Obviously, he's a kid. At that age, he doesn't have his own device, so we don't text him during the day or anything like that. But he came home Monday, and Maclean, he was lit up like a Christmas tree. He had a great day, couldn't wait to go back. There was only 6 kids out of his 2.5 classes worth of grade 4s in his school, but 2 of them were his best buddies. They had a great time. There'll be another 7 or 8 of those grade 4s on different days, but that was great. The 8th grader was hilarious because she was texting me throughout the morning, and giving me the live play-by-play. And I was retweeting and putting stuff up because as reporters were wondering what was going on in schools, and here you had a real life thing. But she said at one point, she was in a math class with 3 students, and there were 5 teachers there. And so she felt so bad for them that they weren't doing anything that she actually made up questions to ask them, and that was pretty good. I think she had there was a very small percentage, I think 5 or 6 students at most in the second class. So that was her experience. She also said that she'd never seen the school cleaner, that when she walked, you go to a classroom and every class change, the teachers say, are you sick? Do you have any symptoms? Well, your parents been out of town, et cetera, et cetera. Then they would squirt a Windex bottle full of hand sanitizer at them, and they'd kind of have to catch it. They didn't want to have. So it was pretty funny. The 11th grader, she may not go back. She's really, she's an excellent student, very conscientious. She kind of writes her own ticket when it comes to these decisions in our house. She's earned that right. So she may not go back, but Definitely, like the fourth grader definitely can't wait for next week, which is a good sign.
That's great. Ours with preschool, so it's actually full time, and they're at about half strength in terms of the number of kids, and there's more coming on the 15th. But Ian was part of the first wave. He was a little nervous the first morning, also because the alarm clock hadn't woken him up in 2.5 months, right? So there was that. But like it was funny. He was clinging to his mom's leg as we got to the door, and then his favorite teacher opened the door, and it was just pew, and he was like, "Hi!" and he ran in before we got through the checklist. And they've changed the procedures. I mean, we're not allowed inside the building at all anymore. We have to drop off his lunch, and well, I won't get into that. But they've done a really good job with some new procedures and that, and we feel pretty confident about both what they're doing and the people who are doing it. And I mean, this is his third day back. We've talked to the teachers. We've talked to him. He's ecstatic. He's so happy to see his friends. They're playing outside. He comes home and he's just like, oh, and I played with this, and then with Annika I played this game, with Hugh I played this game, and it's just it's awesome. I'm so happy.
It's great. That's fantastic. And look, we should discount how hard this has been on these kids the past 3 months. This is a complete lifestyle change for them, and it's nice to see them being able to experience a bit of freedom. It has been funny to see how different stores and places handle these precautions. Some are, and I think part of it is it depends on where their national headquarters is based. Because like a lot of these rules aren't being made by the local franchise; they're coming down from somewhere else. And if you're in a hot spot as a head office, you must think BC's crazy for reopening, and so you have all these like really stringent things. But I'll tell you this, Maclean, like the shops that were open during phase one, kind of the Home Depots, Canadian Tires, Costco's, grocery stores, they sure have relaxed for phase two. Hey, like there's no more lining up outside. There's no more of that. Like phase two shops that have opened for phase two seem to me to be far more stringent right now than the phase ones that are now moving over.
Really? Huh.
At least here.
I haven't done much shopping. In fact, I've done no shopping other than groceries. We've done some online shopping for things like Ian's clothes, which is really hard. I don't recommend it for a kid that doesn't quite fit into a size category. But I mean, it's been weird. The couple of times we have been out for things like pickup for food and coffee places. Went to a place this morning after I dropped the kid off at preschool to get coffee. Maximum 3 people inside and only 1 person working. And the 2 people ahead of me both had I need to get 6 half foam lattes, all with special things. And I waited outside for 15 minutes. The line had moved, and I was just like, I'm gonna go. I don't care anymore. And it's no one's fault. It's just, it's tough. What do you do? I wasn't even allowed inside the store, so standing outside I was there for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And again, no one's to blame. It's just these are the times we live in. And if the person ahead of you needs 6 half mochachinos, then you're going to be there a while.
Starbucks to me is the weirdest one because they won't allow people in yet. And so everything is done out on the street and it's very disjointed. Like it's not a simple process. And, maybe they're, kind of experiencing as they go along and they'll fix it. But Starbucks was an interesting one. I'm trying to think where else. My kid broke his PS4 controller. So my wife took him to the Great Willowbrook Mall in Langley. And decided to, said, okay, we'll stop by EB Games and switch it out. Well, EB Games had a big sign, only 5 people in the store at a time. Okay, it's not a huge store, that makes sense. The problem is they had 3 staff on, and they were counting their staff towards the 5, and there was this mother and daughter in there kind of lazily looking around and browsing. First of all, 3 staff to 2 customers does not seem like a viable business plan for us. And second of all, you can kind of nudge them along oh, these folks are, maybe, the person at the front could have been like, hey, what do you need? And help that. But that was a bit odd. She found that pretty entertaining to see them scurrying around. I pointed out that, having 2 women in the store and 2 lined up out front, there was probably, more women than those poor guys had seen in months. So, it was like, very exciting. True. Very exciting when you live in your mom's base. No, I'm just kidding. I should make fun of EB Games. They take good care of me.
There you go. And one of the things that'll be interesting to watch as this continues is like the evolving etiquette of being very conscious of not wasting other people's time. I'm very conscious of trying not to be that guy in the grocery store who's like, okay, which salsa am I going to buy?
Yeah.
Well, there's someone waiting because you can't go past someone in an aisle. So if you're holding up, that's someone's day. And I mean, I've been frustrated once or twice watching somebody agonize over which brand of toilet paper. Like, really? I think we've all done that.
Yep.
And so you mentioned the two people in the EB Games browsing video games, and well, no one else can come in. This is stuff that we never had to think about before. You were allowed to just sort of
wander
browse.
In. And, Old Navy. We went to Old Navy because the kids needed some stuff, and you wait in line up front, and then you're right. You go in and you're like, okay, we're on a mission. We need he needs jeans, she needs shoes. Like go, and it was probably one of our fastest Old Navy trips, right? But plus, you don't really want to try anything on because that's a whole ordeal. No. Not just for you, but for the staff after. They have to clean them and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's interesting to see it all unfold. I hope it gets better, smoother, quicker. Let's hope. Go ahead.
On a happier note, can I bring up one thing that I'm excited about?
Yes.
So, if you're watching this on YouTube or listening on Spotify, Google Plus, or iTunes, this may not apply to you. But if you're watching this on the mothership on the Orca.ca, this post, this edition of BC Poly Hot Stove, is the 1,000th article that we have ever published. That's pretty cool. 1,000.
They said we wouldn't make it to 999. Woo!
That's true. That's true. If you had 1,000 in the pool, you can cash in your chip now. But I think that's cool. We're still here. Awesome. We're still publishing.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. It is outstanding. So send your anniversary well wishes to Maclean at Maclean K on Twitter. Hey, can I tell you about a funny text I got from James Moore, former Conservative Party of Canada cabinet minister and all around nice fellow. He sends me a text last night from TransLink's Instagram, and I guess TransLink is doing branded masks. And he said, so he sends me the picture. And he's like, "Should I get you one or two of these?" And I texted back and said, "I take my chances with the virus rather than wear TransLink's logo." But I thought that was delightfully clever from former Minister.
It's going to be fun watching companies and brands catch up to like the mask thing. You're going to see a lot of people wearing, reaching out to their favorite brands, their favorite stores, their favorite that, and wondering why they don't have a branded face mask yet. This is true. I haven't told anyone this. This is a true story. I reached out to. I'm a big Calgary Stampeders fan. We've talked about this.
Yep.
The Stampeders are not making face masks yet.
Good.
But I got somebody to put me in touch with the team seamstress, who made 2 Stampeders masks, and they are in the mail heading to Victoria.
Oh my God, that's really cool.
I'm paying for them, and I asked name or price, and then I added a little on top because that's what you do. But why not? I mean, if I have to wear a mask, and I'm thinking about when the ledge returns in 2 weeks, I only have so many of the disposable masks. I'd like to have something that's reusable and I can wash at the end of the day. Why not reach out to an organization that I'm quite fond of, and I know some of the people that work there, and say, hey, have you considered this? I'm like, hey, that's a great idea. She was making bags.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's no problem for me to make masks. And I'd never met this person before, but I'm very grateful.
Okay, 2 thoughts on that. First of all, I happened to meet the father-in-law of the great Calgary Stampeder guard, Brad Erdos.
Oh, yes.
Grey Cup champion and big Bo Levi Mitchell believer. Big Bo Lever. I met him last night. But more importantly, forget this Stampeder mask at the ledge. Let's get you like a Keith Baldry chin mask.
That's
and then the premier will be like, Keith, and then you can ask any question you want because they'll think it's Keith.
I would need like a hair mask for Keith. I mean, for the whole Keith Baldry experience, you need the hair. But this is a very good point.
Yeah, or a Keith will go a Vaughn mask, whatever works.
That's a Vaughn mask. I would wear a Vaughn mask.
A Vaughn Palmer mask, and it's just his. And they'd kind of look at you and be like, "Vaughn, you have a question?" You would launch right in. This is all good. No, you see, ICBA, I forbidden doing ICBA branded masks. I just can't do it. However, we did do ICBA branded hand sanitizer bottles, but it was mainly because we were having problems finding supply, so it made sense to do 500 of those bottles. Okay, I want to talk about 2 important construction projects, if you don't mind.
Please.
We have hit certain landmarks now on TMX and LNG. So for TMX, they're, I think 3 years ago, the first pipe started arriving in Kamloops. It's been stored there ever since, waiting for it to begin. Finally, in Kamloops, construction is underway of the TMX Trans Mountain expansion. That is excellent news. And then LNG Canada, Ellis Ross tweeted out a photo. The first weld of the Coastal GasLink pipeline, which will feed TMX, or which will feed LNG. This is on the Prince Rupert side, so the Coastal GasLink will go all the way from the gas fields near Fort St. John, all the way across British Columbia to Kitimat. The first welds on the Kitimat side were done. And again, major milestone, fantastic. We need these projects. We got to get people working, and we got to get some of the revenue that comes with these pipelines coming online. There's a lot of debt to pay for. I don't know if you realize this, but there's a lot of debt to pay for with our governments. So it was exciting to see these two hit milestones.
Yeah, and on this almost the same day, which was almost, it was quite a. I think we're both in this morning's Fin. It's extraordinary that it's all happening at once. I mean, it makes sense if you think about it because we were all on lockdown. But
and the week before, Site C hit a major milestone regarding some of the turbines that they were tunnels that they were building. So. These big projects are important. I will point out, Patello Bridge still have not broken ground. They released some design schematics, and in order to pay for the union suite or the NDP sweetheart deal with the building trades unions, they've subtracted major components of the lead-in into the Patello Bridge, making the new bridge even less efficient than it will be. But that's still a $1.4 billion project and still not in the ground yet. So, I guess that will be the next milestone, I suppose.
Yeah, and you're right. It'll be interesting to track if and when that gets off the ground at all. I hope it does. You need it over there.
Yes, and I would point out to the federal government that BC has a shovel-ready, already loaded Massey Tunnel replacement waiting. Don't listen to Horgan and his nonsense. Just fund it and build the 10-lane bridge that had been planned. It's only the most significant trade corridor in British Columbia.
You saw a couple weeks ago there was a story saying the Richmond commercial real estate market has already noticed the difference because they've had. I mean, there was a story with London Drugs saying they were considering moving out of Richmond because the bottleneck was just killing them. You don't have to be a partisan on either side to realize that this is a project that needs to happen. Sooner rather than later.
It's true. All right, I think that's all I got. You got anything else? Anything interesting?
No, I think that is it for this week.
You're like a week and a half from being back later, or two and a half weeks. That's still.
Yeah. It's not next week; it's the week after.
Right.
So I will be suited in 2 weeks with a mask. I will not do the show wearing a mask.
Okay, that's good.
That'd be weird.
So it's mask mandatory everywhere in the ledge?
I don't know that. I think they're still working this stuff out. A lot of it will depend on the logistics. I mean, if we were doing scrums in the halls, which we're not, then yes, I would say that they would expect masks. But I am planning to at least have a mask ready in case that is something that is necessary. I'm still kind of feeling that out. Victoria has been it's been very different in terms of masks. You see, the commentary on Twitter is that, we should be wearing masks a lot more. I went grocery shopping yesterday. I brought my mask. I wore my mask because I online a lot, and that seemed like the thing to do. One other customer was wearing a mask, not one of the staff. And I was, looking around to see, and so I felt very different. If others are comfortable not wearing masks, then I will happily not wear a mask. But if I don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So if another reporter or a staff person in the ledge is feeling unsafe or uncomfortable, I will happily wear a mask.
Yeah.
We won't know until we get there, and we're looking for more guidance from the House leaders on this. And I know they're working on this as we speak.
It really varies neighborhood to neighborhood, right? So here in Burnaby, a lot more masks than where I live in Langley. So it is interesting. I mean, we always try to have one with us in case there's a shop or something you want to go into that requires it. Yeah. You want to be respectful, right? So, that'll be interesting to see that unfold. The ledge will be that will be such an experience. It's such an experience that I kind of want to come over at some point and take a look at it firsthand. Although I don't think that they're going to allow public in the gallery, but maybe I can.
No, I don't think so. There's again something they're working on right now, but I'd be surprised if they do for this sitting. We'll see though.
I'm not sure the speaker is going to give me an exemption too, given my checkered past with.
of all the people to ask. That's true.
him.
We might have to give you an assumed name.
Yes. By the way, we started talking about leaks at the beginning. We should finish with leaks. If you have the Alan Mullen report, you'd like to leak it to Maclean K, editor at theorca.ca, and he will never tell a soul where it came from.
I would like to read it. I'm very curious to see what's in it. We're starting to hear hints, but we don't even know when it's going to be public.
I mean, never.
That's possible, but
anything's possible. Anything's possible. Anyways, leaks always to editor at theorca.ca.
Absolutely. I can't think of a better way to end this. I am at Maclean K. He is at Jordan Bateman. You can find the Hot Stove really anywhere you get your podcasts, but also on the mothership as the 1000th post on theorca.ca.